Thank you for viewing this presentation. It has been designed to help Sherfield Parish Council understand its most important asset, Sherfield Green, which sits within the Sherfield Conservation Area. If you would like to consider any slide in detail, then please pause the presentation before continuing. Let's take a stroll around the village green, looking at some of the properties on its perimeter and what they tell us about the history and heritage of the village. Here's the green map of 1841. It shows many of the buildings which we see today. Notice the mix of ages and styles. Each reflects different stages in the development of the village and how lives were lived by those people who provide the village with its history and heritage. Originally very simple houses, some dating from the 16th century, occupied by agricultural workers. Over the centuries, they've been preserved and enhanced. Whilst now sleepy and romantic, they echo the past. They tell us much about our inheritance. These are quintessentially North Hampshire houses. In contrast, we have the most recent building, what will become a home. Has replaced a large garage and workshop. It is of such a simple design and traditional materials that it's easy to miss the thoughtful detailing. This is a credit to both the owners and the village. There are no grand houses near the village green, but some stand out, distinctive and of their period. The ancient Winton cottage, the arts and crafts influenced Wheeler's Court, the much altered former Plymouth Brethren meeting room, now Goddard's Hall. On the green are two sports pavilions, designed to blend with their environments. Just look at how the Loddon Sports Building sleeps contentedly during the week, only to wake up with the excitement of match days. The same was true of the understated cricket pavilion, merging with the original farm buildings at Court Farm and with what is now King's Barn. It's still an attractive building, despite being compromised a few years ago by the painting of its front elevation. These two buildings are successful because of their thoughtful, careful design and because the community valued them. They owe much to the energy of a large number of residents and enthusiasts. Fundraising events, parties, square dances, jumble sales, community stone picking on the cricket field, and so on. Along the plantation we are greeted by a panorama of houses echoing the agricultural heritage of Sherfield. Winton Cottage has witnessed many changes in the fortunes of the village. It too has changed. Look carefully and you can see where and how many centuries ago it was extended, just as you can see more recent work. Then there are 6 semis built in 1947, the heyday of British agriculture. They are exemplars of immediate post-war rural social housing. The attention to detail is superb, even to borrowing the roofline of Winton Cottage so as to integrate modern with ancient. Look also at how the village green sweeps through the gardens to the fields beyond. Next there's King's Barn, a reconstruction of a Stuart or maybe Tudor barn with the same footprint and profile, incorporating some of the original elements and preserving the sense of the ancient. Court Farmhouse and its garden look much as they did in the mid-1800s. What stories it has to tell about its owners and occupants, but also about the enduring appeal of simplicity in design and careful detailing. King's Barn, Court Farmhouse and the gravel track between them still invoke a sense of the last working farm on the village green, adding to a strong sense of agricultural heritage. But what is this? Part way along this panorama with its historic houses and listed buildings. The latest sports-related building, a prefabricated concrete and steel garage with a cement sheet roof, erected by the Parish Council in 2019. What do you make of it? Does it complement and blend with the nearby buildings? Does it use local materials or reflect a local design tradition? Does it reflect a concern for conservation or sustainability or for heritage views across the green? Look closely at what will be the village's inheritance, placed in the middle of the village green in one of the most important heritage vistas. Does it contribute to the history and character of the village? What story will it tell to future generations? Perhaps the best judges are local residents. After all, this was the view which they had appreciated for 40 years. Natural screening by wild shrubs and productive plum trees. It was much easier on the eye than what they see now. Here are some comments. When those living on the green take care to present their homes in the best possible way, why does the parish council put something so unimaginatively crude in such a prime position and then just walk away? None of the councillors would dare put such an ugly building on their front lawns. It would be instant divorce. But on the village green and on my doorstep, anything goes and there's no comeback. The views for residents of the plantation are terrible. The roof is awful. It's in full view. Why couldn't it be black as promised by John Atwood? Why can't it be screened? Goodness, look at the carbon footprint. So much for sustainability. Whatever happened to a sense of style? Hardly North Hampshire. As for promoting conservation, ha! What a showcase of poor judgment. Finally, the PC abandoned its duty of care towards residents for a short-term gain, rather than make a considered decision which reflected the evolution of the green and was sympathetic to the historical context. It looks truly awful. The issues for residents are clear. The unpleasant and illogical nature of the industrialised building, concrete, steel and cement roofing. The impact on the appearance of the pavilion through poor design, detailing and positioning of the store. The failure to blend with adjacent buildings, which degrades an area of significant heritage value. The everyday eyesore of both the store and the dumping ground. Finally, the Parish Council's evident lack of responsibility for sustainability and conservation, and its disdain for residents. Why did this happen? Both these buildings needed legal permission to be constructed. For the new house, this was planning permission. For the store, it was legal consent under the Commons Act. Both planning law and Commons law enabled public scrutiny of any proposal for a building before permission or consent is granted or withheld. However, for the store, Commons law was simply ignored. The public were denied their right to comment on the proposal, and the store was erected without consent. As a consequence, it is illegal. The Parish Council could be forced to remove it. At meetings of the Parish Council and the Village Green and Leisure Facilities Committee in early 2019, the Parish Councillors simply ignore the rules relating to building work on the Village Green. Secondly, they deliberately set aside the ethical requirements of their Code of Conduct by not agreeing to consult residents, and in practice not to inform them until after the order for the store had been placed. By ignoring these necessities, they could progress with impunity. Any complaints would come too late to hinder progress. By pursuing this path of not accepting the values of checks and balances required by law and by public scrutiny, and by ignoring extensive design guidance, it shows a monstrous eyesore. Blissful ignorance or willful negligence? Which was it? Finally, just as parish councillors complain about the borough council ignoring the neighbourhood plan, So the very same parish councillors readily forget their own words about conservation and heritage. The next presentation will discuss the legal issues and what the parish council must do to ensure that the building is not declared illegal and thus is forced to dismantle it. Another presentation will discuss the ethical position adopted by the parish council. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation.